What's up guys, Houndish here, and today we're going to jump in with some new information regarding the Forsaken expansion coming to Destiny 2 in September. So of course we've had a lot of news this week, but today we've got just a little bit of new gameplay. We get some nice close-ups of the Barons, some of their weaponry. We get to see other enemies in action and some locations in the expansion. We also see a taken Prince Uldren, which is pretty curious. I'm going to talk about that a little bit as well. On top of this though, we have a rapid-fire Q&A between Game Informer and Bungie. We learned some interesting stuff, including that you can earn badges for collecting full sets of armor. They speak about how many exotics will be in the expansion. On top of this though, we're going to break down the new enemies, all of their abilities, a new faction called the Chieftains. We're going to touch on new collectibles, including Awoken sacred texts that you can collect in game. Plus we've got a bunch of updates regarding Destiny 2 and content coming down the road. So if you guys enjoyed this video, a rating below is super appreciated. But for now, let's jump straight into it. First up, Game Informer posted a new video about the story for the Forsaken expansion, and we're also going to touch on that rapid-fire question session that they did with Bungie devs. But right here we get a tiny bit of new gameplay. We can see Cade inside of the Prison of Elders. This is the new version of Prison of Elders used in the early part of the campaign. But we get a better look at some of the Barons here. We can see the Fanatic. This guy actually reanimates dead Fallen and turns them into the Scorn. But then some close-ups of some of the enemy weaponry. This guy with these kind of flaming spikes on a chain. We see the Sniper Baron and we get a close-up of his weapon right there, which is really cool. This guy who's almost become half Hive. This is the Mad Bomber. You can see that he's got grenades strapped around his neck right there, and he's throwing these kind of void grenades like a maniac. And then of course there is the Rider, the Road Rage Baron. He's just kind of doing his thing on this Fallen Pike. Top of this there, we get a brief clip with Guardians got new gear on. 3 new Sparrows right there as well. The one at the front has that kind of Dreaming City design physique, I suppose, is what you might call it. But Bungie did say a strange voice calls to Uldren from beyond the Awoken Watchtower, and they'd also said that at the center of the Dreaming City is the Keep of Voices, where the new raid takes place. So Keep of Voices is the raid location, but obviously the reference to the Keep of Voices and Uldren hearing a strange voice calling to him, we're starting to see that connection between the Dreaming City and the ultimate kind of resolution of this campaign. So some interesting stuff to point out. I'll be curious to hear what you think about Uldren potentially being taken in some way or another. It certainly appears that he is being influenced by something at the very least. The cover story for Game Informer also showed Uldren right here. He's holding the Ace of Spades once again, but we can actually see that he does have the sawed-off shotgun on his back. This is a weapon we originally saw on this character. Turns out this character is Prince Uldren. We originally confirmed this via a set of new toy figures for the DLC. Just worth pointing out, it's possibly a weapon that we can acquire at some point, and possibly an exotic one as well. Speaking of exotics, up next Bungie did a rapid-fire Q&A with Game Informer, and there were only really a few questions where we got new or interesting details about the DLC, but one of the first questions was how many new exotics are in Forsaken. Steve Cotton and Scott Taylor said it's around about 15 exotic weapons, and then of course there is a slew of exotic armor as well. So we have seen quite a few exotic weapons in trailers and things like that, but they say it's going to be around 15 new weapons. We're curious to hear what you guys think about that. In terms of progression though, they didn't give us too many details, but they did say that you can earn badges for collecting full sets of armor. Where exactly these badges will be housed, I'm not sure. I'm not sure if it's a Triumphs thing. I'm not sure if they will then be visible on the gear or anything like that, but there are also similar features such as titles that we haven't heard too much about just yet. When asked about guided games and if they wanted to update that, they did mention that they wanted to introduce tools to keep players in fire teams between multiple different types of activities. Not entirely sure how that could work, you know, if you have a raid team of 6 players and then you want to go into Crucible. Obviously we have 4v4 playlists, we're going to have permanent 6v6 playlists by then. There's also 3-player strikes, so I don't know, maybe they have like an automatic way to split a fire team up or something. But the only other really interesting points they said is Galahorn going to be returning? The answer was no. Will Leviathan have new content inside of Year 2? The answer was also no. So those are some of the main things I wanted to pick out of there. But next we got details in Game Informer's cover about all of the different types of enemies, their names and abilities. So while the Scorn were once fallen, corrupted ether and repeated reanimations has mutated them, they were locked in the deepest parts of the Prison of Elders for a long time. So there are the Mongrels. These tower over the battlefield, blasting out cascades of lightning that are near impossible to dodge. They describe the arachnid-like Screeb, and the Screeb are the ones that scramble on all fours, very much zombie-like, and they explode explode like cursed thralls once they get close to you, but apparently the explosion is quite a bit bigger. The raiders send out spinning explosive saw blades of void energy, and they also teleport, but lurkers carry small gladiatorial shields which block shots until hit in the leg. And then there are the ravagers, who hold spinning lanterns which when slammed into the ground create a spout of solar flame, but you can actually shoot the lanterns from a distance to blow groups of enemies up. But holding all of these enemies together, there is kind of an elite faction called the Chieftains. They introduce a new twist on fights by throwing out one of 3 distinct totems. Solar totems are spinning turrets of flame that act as an area denial in their radius. The void totems create an invulnerable shield to all enemies in medium range. The arc totem are the most insidious. If one hits near you, it rubber bands the guardian back towards it, and it's almost impossible to escape until it's been destroyed. So that will actually pull you back towards where it is kind of detonated. And Game Informer say that's the defining feature of all of the Scorn. They don't take cover and they don't retreat. They are by far the most aggressive AI in the game, and their various tricks combine to constantly keep you on your toes. So they sound pretty cool. I think on the whole, the Scorn are some of the more unique enemies we've seen since Destiny 2 launched. I mean, we've only really had the Taken and then the Splicers, which are just modified versions of other enemies. Next though, something I missed the other day. In the Dreaming City, there are going to be a bunch of collectibles, of course, that we can keep in our collections. And this will also link to triumphs, and this is going to include lore stuff. And they say whether it's the sordid history of Cade, as found in hidden chests across the solar system, or the sacred texts of the Awoken discoverable in the Dreaming City, there are dozens of lore fragments together, and between 10 to 15 distinct stories to enrich your understanding of the universe. All of this will also be readable in-game. So it sounds like they're actually going to be adding more kind of Cade stash type stuff around the game, or at least that will remain to be a thing and will be updated. But there are also going to be Awoken sacred texts discoverable in the Dreaming City, so it'll be that really cool kind of bridge between collections and grimoire style stuff we had in D1. And as well as this, we do have the triumph score. So they've said every triumph contributes to a score akin to the grimoire score from the original Destiny, and you'll also get specific emblems to show off triumph thresholds. There will be various different types of achievement to unlock in here, which is really neat. So just some cool stuff to break down about Forsaken there. But next we have questions about raids and the future of raids in Destiny, and Joe Blackburn from Bungie clarified lairs will definitely continue to be a part of D2, and we have heard that there will be more raid lairs inside of the annual pass updates. But he says if you're looking for a big epic battleship of a raid with tons of story and lore implications, we've got that coming in about 2 months. So obviously a further hint to the Dreaming City right there. On the subject of this week at Bungie and new updates that we're going to get this week, Mesa Sean actually said, I hope we get some Solstice of Heroes info this week. DMG said not this week, but soon. So I just wanted to set some expectations right there. But there is also a little bit of confusion regarding some of the raid updates we're getting on July 17th. And this is regarding weapons. Joe Blackburn said the prestige raid lairs are the only way to get 400 guns, but that loophole will include Leviathan guns like Midnight Coup. And they said previously that this includes any weapon from Leviathan, but you do have to complete the full lair to actually get a chance at a 400 drop. But DMG actually asked for some faction rally feedback, and this was on DestinyRoundup.com, super useful website. But DMG said in Season 3, factions were updated with new rewards, legendary armor ornaments, weapons, one exotic ornament, and an exotic weapon catalyst. Do you find these new incentives to be detracting from the experience, or driving you to engage more with faction rallies? I'd like to take your thoughts and compare previously collected feedback in the first season of faction rallies, where the rewards weren't seen as powerful enough. In the second season, some players believed that only one faction was given rewards worth chasing. Now during the third season, I'm seeing feedback that specific rewards for each faction are too powerful, and that players are given too much incentive to pledge to different factions with each event. This also comes with feedback that the limitations feel a bit too tight, and he actually says head over to the Bungie forums if you want to give any feedback on that. So if you do have any opinions about that, I think it's definitely worth submitting over there. Personally, I've enjoyed having higher end stuff to actually chase, exotic catalysts and things like that in the faction rally. I think that element is definitely good. Wherever you've got gear, there is always going to be the optimal piece of gear, right? And I think that's always going to be a bit of an issue for the faction rally. By nature, there will always be something which is the best thing, and so whoever gets that allocated to them, of course, is going to have the highest chance of winning. So what happened with Graviton Lance, it's how FWC got the win this past week. And of course, this time around, players are kind of going from one faction to the other, almost prioritized by how good the stuff is. And so maybe in the next one, we will actually see New Monarchy win. So there are always open downsides to the systems, but I'd be curious to hear your thoughts and definitely go ahead and forward some of that to Bungie as well. But guys, that is going to summarize this video. Let me know any of your thoughts on that stuff. Do you think around 15 exotic weapons is enough for a new expansion like this? I'd love to hear your thoughts on badges, some of the triumphs and collectibles. Also, any speculation about Aldrin would be interesting too. But if you have enjoyed the video, a like below really helps me out. If you're new to the channel, be sure to hit subscribe to see a lot more D2 content. But for now, whatever you guys get up to, I hope you have an awesome day.